This episode of the podcast is sponsored by my book, We Stand on the Shoulders of Titans, Amnesia. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Grammar of Decline. I'm joined once again by my co host Dave and the friend of the show, Mike. This week, we're gonna continue the rhythm of last week's podcast on gaming. I'm gonna be talking about music. In the music industry in the 70s, we can observe that in science, people were in the companies already observing what was going on with how to make a hit song, like the hit song science, and how to produce more easily produce songs that are attractive for people, which chords are attractive and what type of tones are attractive, in order to take less risks with the music industry and just get more money, which is always kind of like how the meritocracy gets replaced by the mediocrity, by replacing it with greed, by replacing it with how to get more money. And throughout the years in the 90s, we saw the rise of autotune, which at the time was a good thing. Cherish Believe is an amazing song, and I'm personally a fan of Daft Punk, who also used that autotune to really create like a unique kind of type of feel for music. But starting to 2010s, we've observed that music slowly is declining. There's obviously outliers, but the more hit songs are declining quality. You have more people that don't actually know how to sing, that are just using autotune to cover themselves. And that structure is something that we need to talk about. It's also something that's obviously part of the decline we see in civilization. The more you normalize, the more you decline. Using that topic, Dave himself, his music is part of the background of the episodes that you hear. And just like him, I also play instruments. So, Dave, let's talk about music. What do you think about what I just said?
Yeah, I think you're really onto something there. The music has certainly declined since like the 70s, since the introduction of autotune and things like that. We've seen it with Cher, as a good example of her voice was just autotune to the max, but it did sell. And I think the industry's cottoned on to that and then, made an industry in itself and made money off of that. Going forward, the introduction of things like Pro Tools and how easy it is to get a hold of these tools now to make music. More and more people are trying it out, but there doesn't seem to be any creative spirit behind it. It's more like just industrialized to try and sell a hit. So you'll see that in songs that's got, they call it three chord wonders, and it is just three chords that are musically it's nice to the ear. As humans, I think we like to hear nice tones, so that'll naturally sell to people. And it's just rinse and repeat with most artists now. It's the same four chords that are used over and over again, maybe in a different scale, but it's just the same four, rhythm wise. It's the same four chords.
Kind of like
So
factory, right? Like mass
yeah.
production.
Yeah, you could take a bit of music, you could play it in the key of C, and then you could take the same four chords and shift that to the key of E, and it would sound different, but it's still the same four chords. So for anybody who knows how music works, it's the first, the third, and the fifth chord that it goes musically well, in a cadence. So if you can take that and do that over again over another key, it will sound different, but it is more or less the same. There's no creative spirit behind it. Like you wouldn't go some of these songs, rather than going they'll just do the first, the third, and the fifth, but they'll not try something like going to the sixth or going to the fourth or going to the second to see where that music takes them. And I think that's just a safe option sometimes for people to sell, because if it sounds dissonant to the ear, then it's not going to sell.
What about you, Mike? Your musical inspiration, like what type of music do you like and where are you looking with all of these things?
I just mostly listen to game soundtracks because they go well with what I'm playing with. I'm not really a huge music guy, so most of the technical stuff you're talking about goes right over my head.
I-
But
If you had
I
an
mean,
artist today, who would you be listening to? Like who apart from game music, what kind of music do you like to listen to? Like if you're in the car, listen to the radio, or
Uh, it's a mix. I don't have a particular theme. So there's a bit of pop music in there. There's a bit of J-pop as well. J-rock, just some rock music. Listen to some stuff from the 80s as well.
yeah,
There's I mean, the thing is, I'll like a good song. If
mm,
it's in my head, I'll be like, oh, that's a good song, bop my head to it. But
yeah,
then I I couldn't tell you the name of the song. I couldn't tell you who wrote the song. It's just, oh, it's that song. Everyone's always got that one where they go like, oh yeah, it's that song. I don't know the name. It's like that's most that's most every song I've listened to.
Right.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
going on to J-rock, actually, like the Japanese scene also has these kind of chord progressions. Like I'm a huge fan of To like Yorishika, also for Korean, like Day 6. 1OK Rock is also one of my more favorite bands. But Japanese music very much goes into the pentatonic type of music, which, well, like I said, it's something that resonates with the human, right? Like it's something that sounds good, but at the same time, you also have to talk about the quality of the writing of songs, like the
Yeah,
lyrics. Like it's very interesting that in rock people are like drug, sex, and alcohol. Very interesting, but is that really something that you want to be singing about 24/7? It's very
Depends on the
exhausting for
person,
me.
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, but if you
I mean,
normalize
well,
that behavior, you see our current society, right? And our current
look at
society resonates with these three topics. Sex,
yeah.
drugs, and alcohol is the best way to describe our current culture.
Well, if you look at that song, all about that bass, about that bit,
Oh yeah,
that's about
yeah.
sex, and the ass essentially. So, it's like that
Like
sells. That's what
Anaconda.
sells. Yeah,
Yeah. But then
exactly.
the opinion becomes sex sells, right?
Yeah.
And that is
Yes.
kind of like if you look at civilizational collapse at Ibn Khaldun's eye, it is the luxury of our current civilization where we are so entitled to the degree where we can normalize these type of behavior. Where at first it sounds like, oh, this is progressive, right? Like, oh, it's progressive, it's new, it's something that we can do. But there's nothing progressive about this because we've done this for over 4,000 years of recorded history since the ancient Greeks. And we've known over and over if you go too far into normalizing certain behavior, then that behavior is what you become. And that is where we currently are. And music, gaming, writing, entertainment, like this whole bubble of things that we are consuming, if it is only in the scale of something that we consume, it just becomes a new religion in the
Yeah.
sense of like cults. Like Elvis Presley is a good example for something that just went way too far with cult behavior.
What about Beatles or Justin Bieber,
No, I'm just
or actually,
using I'm just
or
using an
the
example, right?
modern day Taylor Swift?
Yeah, like I'm just using
Yeah.
an example. Elvis Presley is like kind of like the OG when it comes to like the first of the first, when it's just completely unnatural. Because if you look at
Yeah.
Elvis Presley back then and you look at Justin Bieber, almost the same type of reaction, right? It's mostly women that go completely crazy over the voice and the looks, right? And some slow moves. And Taylor Swift, same idea. Like I don't know if you to pay attention to her, but she's had 5 different faces the past few years. She keeps having plastic surgery done on her face,
Didn't
and
know that.
just imagine like this is the person you look up to.
Yeah. That.
Also,
Well,
like
Yeah. It's a
is
bad
that
impression.
necessary? I was going to say, is that necessarily her, or more that we as a society,
it's both.
encourage it?
It's
Yeah.
both.
But then Taylor Swift does kind of go against the norm a little bit because, I mean, look, she took. I'm not sure of the not sorry, not certain of the facts, but she took one of her albums because I'm sure it was getting heavily copyrighted by our record producer, and she said, right, fuck you, I'm going to reproduce this myself, and I'll change some of the lyrics in it so that I can own it outright
Yeah.
and you don't own it. So she
Well,
does
that's a
kind of
bit
go
different.
against the grain a little bit.
No, like her early work was from a different producer. Like she didn't really change the lyrics; she just kind of changed the tune around it. and
Right.
obviously she grew up since then, so like the voice also sounds way better.
Okay.
But like that's a more of a like financial thing. Like she wanted to produce music, so she took what she could get, right? And eventually
Hmm.
she became huge, and now like she's running into all these problems with her former producer and all these licensing agreements. Like you know how America
Hmm.
is, right? They are very predatory when it comes to licensing.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll own nothing and be happy, as
Yeah, exactly.
what we could go to for that. You know.
Was it also kind of like how the situation with Tupac went, or like because I've heard stories in the music industry where the companies have more value for you if you're dead, because a dead artist sells more albums.
Yeah, I was going to say because that's you
Yeah.
get you. I mean, everyone knows that. I mean, look at any artist who dies.
Yeah. Yeah. Could take that. What was it, that artist CeeLo Green, as well? I'm sure he passed away, and his music kind of took a wee spike when he passed away.
Yeah, like it's just
So
for number has to go up, right?
yeah, and look at, I mean, Michael Jackson has always been a hit artist, you know,
Yeah.
but now he's dead. His music probably sells more than, you know, it kind of ever did. And even after countless allegations that's been made against him, where that would kill an artist outright. If that get made against any other artist, they would I mean, like, even look at who was the other one, Gary Glitter. They made allegations against him, and his music's dead. You know, nobody really wants to listen to his music.
But the
Um,
difference is Gary Glitter was proven.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
also too big
Um,
to fail, right? Like MJ is like that name itself is way too big to fail.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, that's where his roots are. You know, his roots are in music, and he was very creative. You know, he was considered the king of pop. So you know, his music was, you know, innovative for its time. You know, and what it brought to the music industry. So that's why probably his music will never die and it will always sell. But it probably is more so now that he's dead. It sells more, you know, because everybody who wants to get into pop or get into music will hear of Michael Jackson, whether we're in current day age or probably 20, 30 years in the future. People will still be hearing of Michael Jackson, I would imagine, because he was just that influential on music as a whole, you
I
know.
mean, it's not just music, like dancing.
Yeah,
Dancing, if you look at K-pop
absolutely.
today, you can quite literally take all of the dance move you see from K-pop and just look at MJ.
Yeah,
Like the inspiration is completely there. Like, and that is kind of the thing, right? Like, if you teach yourself to such a degree that the dance move should be like this, you should sing like this. Because MJ was not just dancing; he was both a dancing machine but also a singing machine. Because his
yeah.
voice was amazing live, right?
Hmm.
Like that balance is what creates like a good artist. Like if you look at his lyrics as well, like there is what you call like hypothetical meanings behind like a lot of his songs, right? Like
Yeah,
Black
Heal
and
the
White, for example.
World,
Heal the
Man in the
World, yeah.
Mirror,
Man in the Mirror, yeah.
yeah,
It's,
Black and
if
White.
if you look at lyrics, music quality, dancing, like that's what the whole package is about, and that's kind of like what they're reproducing in South Korea with K-pop, right? Except the standards for K-pop are, well, let's just say that, well, if you talk about my MJ, you have to talk about his parents, right? It's almost like the same. If you think about
Yeah,
MJ's parents and you look at K-pop today, it's almost like they have the exact same parents, because
The
these K-pop
parents.
artists are not being treated well. What do you say?
right.
Well, it's like anyone with a stage parent is gonna be.
Oh no! It's not a stage parent.
No, but
They're
you know
not
what I mean, though.
indoctrinated in schools. Like if they're music, then they have to all play in time and all that. Is that, am I thinking of that? Is
Would
that the
that be
right
more
thing?
social contagion than
That's
indoctrination?
more classical music, like with Asian parents, quote unquote. What you see, like with piano, for example, and like this cohesion type of behavior. You
Yeah, so,
are,
so social contagion then.
yeah, but that's more like it's not necessarily a bad thing. This is something like if you take the route to esports, for example, the reason Asian teams are so good in esports is because they are team first, individual second. And that's just a different way to approach things. Like the West is more A Faustian spirit. That's the way
Individualistic.
Spenger described it as a Faustian spirit. Like the West is very like we need to ask
Would you
questions
say
about
we are more
everything.
narcissistic about things, like more
No,
focused
like
on
we just have
self?
this Faustian spirit. We need to explore everything and have answers to everything. Like that is the way Spenger described Western behavior. We just have this spirit in us that always wants more. Like if you
Right.
look at the past, well, millennia, even before that, right? Like with the Vikings, like it's always been a phase of like climb, 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 climb.
Hmm.
And I
Or
would
more.
say this is kind of like the first time where it's becoming too much. Like we're eating more than we can swallow. And that is what entertainment is like the best visualization because what we consume is what we become.
Yeah.
And the things that we are consuming right now are not healthy things. Like if you compare it to, for example, Chinese, well, television, it shows different things, right? Like if you look at Black Myth Wukong, we spoke about last week, it's a more culturally respectful type of video game that actually goes into stories and the beauty of the country and the beauty of like the things that have been constructed over the years. Because some of these things that you see in the game really exist.
Yeah, as opposed to say Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah, exactly. And the same goes with music. Like back in the day, people were generally taking risks whenever they like signed an artist, right?
Yeah.
Like with the Beatles, with Elvis Presley, like these were all risks, and then you have
Yeah.
to make it work. Now it's more like people create their own music, and then it's like okay, just throw an autotune in there and screw the lyrics. Like the cover songs as well are becoming more and more popular. Like
Yeah.
people are just taking a song as like instead of writing my own, let's just cover it. But at the same time, these people are also the one who scream the loudest when it comes to AI. It's like
Yeah.
you are not really in a position to complain about AI in the first place because your music itself is just slop. And
It's
that is kind of
derivative.
like, yeah, like in China, you have these novels, like these light novels, that are considered junk food novels. And this quite literally means like you have a chapter every single day, and it's a copy paste of the same arc over and over and over. So you're reading the exact same thing, except it takes 1,000 chapters for the book to finish. Probably even more. Like there's some out there that are up to 3,000 even. And
People
in
read
music, it's
that?
the same. Yeah, it's very popular because it's junk food. Like people enjoy it because the story generally is quite interesting from time to time. There's
Yeah.
interesting parts in there, quite similar to music, right? If you think about Justin Bieber's "Baby," for example, it's a bad song. I'm just going to be real. It's a bad song.
It definitely is.
And that is the same kind of thing. Like if you think about junk food novels, I would say there's junk food music as well. And
Yeah.
that is how I would describe junk food music, something like Justin Bieber's Baby.
It's
Like,
funny, but because like AI can give people inspiration to also write good lyrics, but I was amazed because I've never been a good lyric writer. I've always been more focused on my instrument, guitar, and playing that, and creating music on that. But I've never been a good lyric writer. So anyway, I fed a couple of words into an AI and I said, make me a song from these few words. And it came up with, verses, choruses, bridges. And, it was something I could have just quite easily put a guitar track to. And it was just that easy just to come up, from a couple of words. I think it was like celestial being or something like that. I put into it. And it came up with a whole song based on celestial being, which was it rhymed. The words in it were great. You could tell to a degree it was AI, but if you didn't know any better, you would be like, wow, that human's quite creative who's created that song. And I think that's the challenge with AI now is it takes every bit of literature that's ever been written and it creates, it obviously formulates things from that and spits out something that can sound quite creative, but actually it's not. It's just extracting from multiple sources to get to a point, so that there's no creativity in it, but it's probably better than any human could do because it's got all the works behind it that, it ever needs.
that is the direction that's important, right? Like we as humans, whenever we invent something new, we need to use it in order for ourselves to grow. for ourselves to become bigger. Like every single generation has a responsibility to create a better world, and it also means that we need to evolve. We need to always pursue greater height for ourselves, as long as within the frame that is healthy for our surroundings. Because if you just endlessly devour, you just become a black hole and you destroy everything around you, right?
Yeah, but is that not the fear of AI? Is the fact that it's taken that away from us to a degree? It's taking that creative spirit away from us because it's just going to be too easy now to feed something into an AI to get ideas that it might have not necessarily been yours. And I could do that with music as well. I could quite easily create a tune, feed it into an AI, and it would go, "Here's where I think you should go next," kind of thing. And it'll probably create a bridge for you. There's people who have been out there who create whole songs from AI down to the instruments. They could feed it
I've
into
got
an
a
AI.
I've got
Well,
friends who do that. They'll write the
exactly, yeah.
lyrics, but an AI does the actual song in the style of certain things.
Yeah, you could say,
Quite good actually,
do,
though.
do this song in the style of Nightwish, do something like that, and it'll spit out a song that is done in the style of Nightwish with the lyrics that you wanted to convey. Something like, I don't know, if you said Alan Wake in the style of Nightwish, then it would do Alan Wake in the style of Nightwish, and it's just too easy. You see multiple videos now on the internet with people who have done that, with current songs, that like Taylor Swift and the style of Disturbed,
I
and they,
think.
they couldn't be any further apart as bands and artists, but they're still being merged because this AI can just do that.
Well, I think there's a difference because you've got those who use it as a tool, and then you've got those who use it as a crutch.
Yeah,
So there's a significant difference between the two. So the ones who use it as a tool tend to do some really good stuff, but the ones who use it as a crutch will never grow, so they'll just put out the same slop all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back to Dom's point earlier, or Dominic's point earlier. If you use it as creative tool to aid yourself, then yeah, that's going to be much better. You're probably going to get better results out of it.
Yeah, but it's also like if you really think about like practice, right? Like something that is like in my city with the university where like there's this auditorium, quite well, not really a famous one, but like a prestigious one, right? Where like the quality of music is very important and what you learn is very important, and the technique that they use in order to practice is something called deliberate practice. This is something that they also do in esports. It's something they do with athletes. It's something that even Magnus Carlsen himself, like the world chess champion, said for him it didn't work for Magnus Carlsen, but for most people it does. And deliberate practice is well, it's kind of already in the word, right? The word deliberate and the word practice. It's how you should approach practicing, and just that discipline of obtaining a skill as an individual already makes you a greater person because you're teaching yourself what it takes to master a certain skill, what it takes to reach certain heights with yourself in a healthy way. Because deliberate practice is the scientific most healthy way in order for you to obtain skills, right? And
Yeah,
this is kind of like the phase, like if you look at programmers, for example, there's a lot of complaints in programming where people are forgetting how to program because they're over relying on AI. And that's kind of like the basis. Like last week we spoke about video games and the decline in quality of like more graphics but less bugs. And like it's the same kind of consensus where people are over relying on AI to do the job
yeah,
for them instead of having the skill to do these things in the first place. Because
yeah.
if you actually know what you're doing, and if you actually know where you're going with certain things, that's when you create a product that is unique to yourself because it's still something that you made. It's just that you use an AI to make things
Yeah,
well more efficient for yourself without spending 50,000 euros to pay someone to help you.
100%. And I mean, even like what you're saying there, for for myself, like playing the guitar, I needed to put hours and hours and hours into of practice into that to play good, you know. And it was by doing that that then my creativity started to come out because I started to get familiar with what I was doing. Therefore, I could be brave and kind of get a direction of where I wanted to go, and I would know the chord structure. I would know how to shift it, and sometimes I would be, tempted to try things out that I might have not tried previously, to see how it sounds. Like rather like I said earlier on, music kind of goes the first, the third, and the fifth to sound good. But if you try something like the fourth and see how that sounds within the chord, then that's being creative and taking the music in a different direction. Which I think artists to a degree, if they know their music, like even Justin Bieber, his roots, he did. I've read a bit about him. He did like learn piano. He knew different instruments. But his music now is just like industrial slop, and it's just to sell a song because he has got a good voice. But the
Well, I do think
powers
there
that
are
be,
songs he's made over time that now are like of better quality, to be
yeah,
fair to him, right?
right,
Like he has significantly improved his skills. Like he is someone, despite like obviously there's a lot of stories around like the people surrounding him, like with Diddy and stuff like that.
hmm,
He definitely didn't have a good time in like quote unquote the American music industry. But like his skill has significantly improved, right? Like he hasn't stood still. Like he's had his problems, just like anyone has as a human being, especially for his age.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
look at Elvis Presley, right? Like he did quite a lot of drugs. Let's be real here.
Yeah, and they
A lot
flew
of
hundreds of
hamburgers.
miles just to
Yeah,
get a sandwich at some
Now I'm
exactly.
points as
hungry.
well.
Now I want a burger.
It's this kind of thing, right? Like where people are they're just in their own struggles. Like you see this most with artists. Like artists are more vulnerable to these type of things. Where in order to have the same feeling, like if you stand in front of a huge crowd, like if you think about what's his name? Fred Mercury, like same kind of idea, right? He was
Yeah,
so addicted to standing in front of such a massive crowd that he started wanting to feel that high again constantly. And you see the same
yeah,
in sports with extreme sports. You just keep finding the more extreme and extreme thing
It's
until it kills
it's
you.
it's escalation. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you get that even in a more mundane sense. It's like you've got to do better the next time.
yeah,
yeah.
Every time it's got to be better, and sometimes you just, well, you are eventually going to plateau.
Yeah, I think I mean if you do stand on a stage and you do play music to a large crowd, it can be very exhilarating when you're playing your music, people are singing along and dancing, and you kind of get that. I'm allowing them, or not allowing them, but I'm giving them enjoyment by doing what I'm doing, and they're enjoying obviously what I'm doing. They like what I'm playing, so it's you get that buzz, that dopamine hit out of doing that.
You've also got the
Um,
more cynical take of, oh, I'm getting a lot of money for this.
yeah,
true.
but then that's the devil in disguise, isn't it? People either do it for the money or they do it for the enjoyment that they give to other people. But not just that. I mean, when you are in a band and you're creating music together, there can be a certain connection between you that it's very hard to describe unless you've been in that environment. Like when you get these really good bands that just go on stage and they improvise and the music just works for some reason, they just, because they know their instruments so well, they know where each other are going to go, they can be so creative and it just makes it sound so natural. And it's like Pink Floyd is a great example of that. They would go on stage and sometimes they would just do you know instrumentals that it just because they gelled as a band, it just worked, and they would just create great music. And even in the studios, some of the best music just came from, mucking about, really.
Yeah, like a good example as well is Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? Like
Yeah,
Chad Smith, like did some interviews and for
Under the
multiple
Bridge.
songs. Yeah, like he just said, like it's just improv. It's just
Yep.
improv. Like there's a lot of improv. Like he also made like because he when he was on Drumeo, like he came out and said like there's these certain things just never made it to the track, but when you listen to us live, that's when you hear like the way we usually practice it.
Yeah,
Like there's also a different version between CD and live, and
Yeah.
that brings a new life to it as well.
Yeah, even bands like Tool as well. Their drummer, phenomenal drummer. Absolutely phenomenal. His stuff is like a mathematical equation when you try to listen to that stuff. But how he pulls it off is just beyond. But yeah, the band just kind of there was a funny thing I heard once. It was like, do Tool play to the drummer or does the drummer play to Tool kind of thing, and it's just one of those things you can't get to grips with because he's just so good at his instrument. He's a virtuoso that it creates this unique sounding music, that you can't replicate. It's so hard to replicate Tool, as a band,
Well, we also saw, well, we've been seeing the rise of like this mathematic rock, like Polivia. I don't
Oh
know if you
yeah,
ever heard of that.
yeah, I've heard
Yeah, I've
Polivia.
never heard
Yeah.
of it.
Well, Polivia, like led by Tim Henson, is like what would you call it, like mathematic instrumental. So it goes over this very complex, like type of mathematical rhythm when it comes to like chord progression. And sometimes when you hear like him improv, it's just completely like, how do you even think of these things? Like Ichika Nito as well, like he does like these almost daily kind of riffs. Like eventually you do understand, like, oh yeah, this is Ichika Nito. Like, oh yeah, this is definitely Tim Henson. Like they do have their own style, right? And eventually this is just who they are as an individual.
Yeah.
And I think it was what's his name again? John Mayer, who said that the way he expresses music is just like he thinks about what he wants to say and then he just expresses it to music. That's how
Yes.
his music comes to be.
Yeah.
And like for a lot of people, myself included, when I learned guitar, it was more of just creating sound of how I wanted to speak and
Yeah.
just having something like smooth and like because my voice, like I'm a very deep voice, and like when I do karaoke with my friends, it's always like deep songs because that's the only type of music where my voice just kills, so to say.
Hmm.
But when it comes to guitar, I like these very vibration, high pitch, open type of music, where just more expression. But my voice will never be able to do that because I cannot go that high. My voice is not made for it, but my instrument can. And that's just how a lot of musicians see themselves, where the instrument just allows them to express themselves in a way they cannot without.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. But then again, playing devil's advocate here, with the introduction of these tools with auto-tune as well, they can now make their voices go that high, but they might not necessarily be able to do that live. So if you go and see a band live, you want to get the experience of what you're listening to on their studio album, if not better. Like when I go and see bands like Dream Theater or Volbeat or Avenged Sevenfold, which are all kind of heavy metal focused bands, progressive stuff. I'm going for that experience. I'm going for to listen to them be better than what they are in the studio album because I believe you do lose a certain quality when you're recording in the studio, just because it needs to be. It's just not as good as what it is live. I can't describe it really very well, but when you listen to something live, it's just far better. But if the artist can't do that vocally or instrumental wise, if they're not as good as their instrument as they put in the studio, then are you missing out there when you go and see them live?
Yeah, this was a huge talking point for Tim Henson. Nobody believed he could do what he was doing live, and then he proved them all wrong.
Mm.
And that
Hmm.
is like the basis, right? Like as long as it represents, everyone will not only respect for you, but they'll also understand just what it takes for you to create this level of music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to take a different segue, like you have the DJs, right? Like Netherlands is a huge country when it comes to DJs. Like consistently, we are loading the top 10 of the DJ Top 100 every single year for the past 2.5 decades now. Like the Netherlands is a huge DJ country, like with
No
hardstyle,
need to show
techno.
off.
I'm just explaining because nobody knows anything about DJs. But
David Guetta, that's about the most I know about DJs.
exactly,
Daft
that's the thing.
Punk.
Like you're already losing it after that. But like when I speak about like Armin van Buuren, Martin Garrix, Hardwell, Tiesto, like that probably means nothing to you. All of those names.
Yeah.
So just
Not none of
to
it means a thing.
exactly, but that's the thing, right? Like the Netherlands, we are slowly starting to see like that these DJs just show up with a laptop, and they're not really being DJs anymore. They're just playing. They press play,
Hmm.
Yeah, don't
and
they have all the stuff on disc anyway or something like that? They just play
yeah,
it.
but back in the day, they did actually. They have these tools in front of them, right? Like these DJ tools, and they
Yeah.
did
Yeah, no,
actually
I mean,
try to play around with things.
yeah, no, I mean, I know about the decks and stuff that they used to have.
Yeah.
No, well, some of them still do, but like you see that a lot of DJs nowadays, they just take their laptop with them and then just press play, and they say, "Yeah, I've done all the mixing at home. Now just enjoy."
Play it
But
live. Yeah.
Trust me, bro.
yeah, but this is where like something that Armin van Buuren very often said, like if you rock the crowd, it doesn't matter what you're playing, as long as the crowd is enjoying it. That means you're going the right direction, and that was specifically in the sense of like feeling out what the crowd wanted and then just going with the flow. Like obviously they have a set on like kind of like what direction you're going to, but it's the same with bands. Like bands have a certain type of set of like we're gonna play these songs and might change a little bit here and there, might change some things up here and there, but it's the same kind of idea where you feel the crowd and you're like, okay, do we do an encore? Do we do this? Do we do that? It's
Yeah.
like it's a mutual back and forth, right? But
Yeah.
when you take that feeling out and you just press play, at that stage is kind of like, then what's the point? Like at that stage, it's the same with AI, right? If you over rely on just a tool and you're no longer trying to entertain the people, because that's what you're in the end doing, right? You're trying to entertain the people. Then you've
You're
lost the
trying to
point.
convey an emotion. I mean, when I write songs, I write it based on what I'm feeling at the time and what I want to put across, and it's to make people understand how I'm feeling and maybe get them feeling the same way too. So if I write a happy song, then I'm writing a happy song. If I write a sad song, then I write a sad song.
Well, it's like what I was saying before. It's the difference between using it as a tool and a crutch.
Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, the lyrics do play an important part in that, and but I equally think that the instrument plays a part in that. If you can write a good part on an instrument, that it just puts across a certain vibe where people are like, oh, I can chill out to that, or I can be sad to that, or I can be happy to that, you know. Then that's important as well. It's not just about the lyrics. Earlier on, you mentioned, Mike, about video games and
Hmm.
soundtracks to that. When you play that, that video game, do you feel a certain emotion with the music
Well,
that's getting
yeah,
played at that point?
it gets me more into it. If you get
Yeah.
if you get a good boss theme going, then
Oh yeah.
It's
I'm
the
really
atmosphere,
into
right?
it.
There was a Alan Wake 2 that I played
Oh,
in
I know
a horror
which one
game.
you I know which bit you're
Yeah.
talking about. Is that the
Herald of Darkness, when he's going
yeah.
in through, that I really just vibed to
That
that, you
was
know what I mean?
well.
I
The
was like,
funny
that's
thing is with
amazing.
that, yeah. The funny thing is with that, it's just redoing the narrative beats from Alan Wake One, but
Yeah,
they're basically just telling the story. But it's a
yeah,
really cool
Story
song.
of the
A
Light,
lot of
exactly.
people hated it. I mean, to be
Oh,
fair,
I loved it.
I the game was disappointing for me, but that bit was like the highlight of it. I really did enjoy it.
I mean, I've enjoyed the game, but I did enjoy the soundtrack more so, even to the point where I did show Dominic a song from it at
Yeah,
one
it is.
point, and I was like, yeah, this is absolutely amazing. But it rang, it didn't, it kind of ascended itself because it didn't just speak about the game, but it spoke about things outside the game, so it broke the fourth wall in a way,
Well, no,
because,
it also literally gave away the plot twist.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which was funny. But I mean, another good example is Expedition 33. That has
Yeah,
a fantastic soundtrack.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the artists, I think they drew inspiration from a lot of other games as well, like Final Fantasy
Oh
and
no, there
stuff like
was. There
that.
was like Persona, Final Fantasy, all sorts.
Yeah, and they kind of came together and they were like, these soundtracks are great in games, and we want our soundtrack to sound this great. But they didn't hire like professional, like industry known people. They just went at it themselves, didn't they? Really, and just they took like people from Fiverr and things like that to actually do the soundtrack, which
Yeah,
was
the guy that got was the music guy was just some dude from some obscure music website.
Yeah. So I mean, you are finding there is still creative people out there that are doing great music, but industrial music as it is at the moment, pop music that is the same four chords that you're hearing on the radio, it's just got no creative vibe to it at all. And it just, with the introduction of Spotify and things like that, these things are, they're selling, not even selling, they're just, there's no, you can't go out and
Well,
buy an album anymore
well,
and
it's
just
it's
listen to it.
well with that it's profit driven as opposed to um profit, but between profit driven and just artistic driven. It's
Yeah,
again same with games. It's just it's just one is completely obsessed with making more money. The other one actually wants to make something that's entertaining, and it's always the investment side of it which wins out because obviously they're the ones who are funding the artists.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think access to music now has caused a big deal in the industry. Like, music's more accessible to everybody than it's ever been, but it's a good thing and a bad thing because with the introduction of Spotify and everything, you can just download something and that's it. You've got that single song that you wanted on your phone or on your tablet, and you can listen to it whenever you want. So there's no now going out and buying an album and actually listening to the whole album to see what stands out. And there is some good pop artists out there who maybe have some cracking songs on an album, but because the industry doesn't think that'll sell, they don't put it out into mainstream, and therefore it probably never gets listened to. Um, and that's a bad thing as well because we're basically the investors are making the decisions for the artists and saying, oh, this is what's going to sell, so this is the music we're going to put out, rather than taking risks and actually putting out something that it might not sound the greatest at first, but some of these things can become earworms, you know?
Yeah, but risk doesn't come make reliable money for them, so
Yeah,
they don't
and
bother with it.
that's the problem is that it's sheerly money driven, rather than driving creativity. It's money that's driving the industry, and that is a bad thing, because then creativity is lost.
Well, not
Definitely.
necessarily. This is why with video games and music, you see more and more indie artists, right? Like the rise of YouTube has created a system where people are allowed to just express whatever they want, and if it gets a following, it gets a following, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
you mean like a podcast?
Like a podcast, yeah.
yeah,
Like
it sounds
just
familiar.
just go look at like for example, I write a book. If I had to go a traditional route, I will need to get a publisher. I will need to get an editor. I will need to basically trade away most of my rights on the book, just so that I could potentially sell 5 books.
Hmm.
And then there's also marketing involved, and there's like there's so many things involved just to make something happen that at that stage it stops being worth it. Like Nietzsche is a good example. Like the final work that he did, he only shared it with close people around him. He didn't really want this published, so there were only 40 copies. And it's that kind of feel. Like for me, when I wrote these books, it's really in the direction of like, yeah, I do want to reach people, but at the same time, I'm very, very in the Kierkegaard kind of ideas. Like, I don't really care too much in the sense of like, I know the things down, and whether you like it or not, like, this is the reality. And if you don't like it, then good for you. And I don't care. I just don't
Yeah,
care. And
yeah,
that's the
Fair
same
enough.
kind of thing. Like when it comes to music, like I call it junk food music, right? Like the same with junk food novels. Like it's just cheap easy to digest, but long-term health problems.
Yeah. But do you think even at that now it is getting introduced at even an early stage now? Like I'm using that as an example, like Baby Shark as an example. You know,
God.
that introduces music, but it's just repetitive drone music and junk food, essentially, like what you said, for kids. So they're being introduced to it from an early age. And do you not think that's going to cause a problem?
Well, like I do think that there's a good parts of like teaching certain songs to a child, because in the end, like a child isn't really digesting what is actually being said, right? So it is important for the lyrics to not really have any meaning.
Hmm.
Like maybe some good things in there, but for the rest, like it's just something funny that they will have to forget in the next few years. Because I do think over the years, as a child, you do develop a taste. But if you're constantly being given the exact same thing, then that is what becomes your taste. It's the
Hmm.
same with certain people and food, right? Like for me, like when I started only drinking water when I was 18 years old. Nowadays, when I drink like during social events, I drink like some cola, for example. It actually bothers me to the sense of like I just feel overwhelmed with what is entering my body, just because I'm so used to drinking nothing but water and tea that when I drink something outside of that, like juice and stuff is still fine, but something heavy like cola with a lot of sugar and like this sparkly thing, I just get overwhelmed
Now,
because I'm
see,
used to.
I'm the complete opposite because I live off of, we've got a drink here in Scotland, Iron
I
Brew, and
Yeah,
I live off of that stuff. That
well,
is my water.
well,
but that's the
it's just
same
because you're
thing.
not it's just because you're not used to it. I mean, if you went with like a vegan or something like that, and they just suddenly ate meat, I mean, that's going to be a shock to the system. So if you're not used to it, you're gonna feel it.
No, I mean more in the sense of like what is good for you and what is bad for you. Because the Scottish drink, let's just have everyone in Scotland hate me. It is unhealthy.
Yeah, no, there's no arguing. There's any energy drink or any sugary drink is going to be unhealthy for you. But then it's the same thing. Sugar sells. People buy these things because it gives them a dopamine hit. And it's the exact same thing that you're seeing in music, you're seeing in gaming. These things are quick dopamine hits. Even the rise of mobile games is a quick dopamine hit for people, and that's the problem. With the underlying problem is it's just something that sells. It gives you a quick hit, and then people chase that high again and again and again. And the thing is with dopamine, the more you get it, the more your receptors get resistant to it, and you need more dopamine to make you feel happier or to make you feel that buzz.
Yeah, but that's the thing,
It's like
right?
any.
Like when it comes to junk food music, like you're settling for worse. And when you do the same with music, with food and stuff like that, like a new study came out in my country
Right.
by Jeanette Cross. I read this like a few days ago. Like I have to translate this in my mind. Give me a second. That's always a thing. Like when you're polyglot, you do need to be like, okay, this is my own language. Now let's switch to English. Like these drinks, like for example, your Scottish national drink, even with or without sugar, there is a link between an increase of liver fatting, so that means the damaging of your liver, even with just one drink a day.
Yeah.
And this study goes over like cola, cola light, sugar-free iced tea, um, like all of these things that we quote unquote enjoy, right? That these are things that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And in the
I mean,
study,
it's unnatural sugars, so it's like
Well, I can probably say
aspartame, isn't it?
it's
That
probably
you're
not
putting in your
just the
body.
sugar. Yeah, it's probably not just the
Chemical.
sugars as well. There's just there's so many things in it that you end up just getting compare it to water, which is just what H2O, and
Yeah.
then you
yeah,
compare it to like any slight energy drink, not even a strong one, and you look at the ingredients list, you got a massive shopping list of stuff there.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what did
So
the survey come up or the research come up with?
So they did a research on 124,000 participants. So this is important because
You want a good
um,
sample size.
a quota size, yes, and sample size is extremely important when it comes to doing this type of research. And this was in the United Kingdom, so it was a UK biobank. So you two are both from the United Kingdom, so we're talking about your country.
For our
And
sins, yeah.
yeah, so whoever drank more than 250 milliliter, I don't know what is in your units, but milliliter in
Yeah.
any of these consumptions, or around a can of cola, so to say, like
Right.
if you want to
So
sample it that way.
if you got a bottle here, it would be 2 liters, so 2,000 milliliters
Yeah.
of yeah.
So
Or
there
a
was
can
a
is about 353 milliliters usually.
Yeah, so there was a 60% more chance of metabolic dysfunctions associated steatosis liver disease. This is a new medical term for non-alcoholic liver fatting. So by any sugar-holding drinks, there is an increase of around 50% in the
Wow.
in the development of around 1,178 of the 123,000 the participants. 108 people died due to liver-related problems,
Oof, I'm
and
fucked. I drink 2 liters every day. Damn.
that's what I mean, right? Like I hear you like burp, and I hear these sounds, and I'm like, dude, this is not healthy. Like I understand it's a national drink, but if your national drink is to kill yourself, then I'm sorry, but it's just not a good thing. And
Yeah.
now this research, it's only a few days ago when I read this. Like it's just like any drink, like even with what is this in English as well? Like these sweetening types of particles.
Sweeteners.
Sweeteners, that's not, yeah. Like even with sweeteners, like they just show that the increase of like any artificial sweeteners just increases the taste and like stimuli of insulin production, and this then leads to diabetes. Like it's just like it does matter what you consume, whether it is
Yeah.
entertainment, it is music, it is what you eat, drink. Like all of these things have a long-term effects on you as an individual. Like not just with like overall health, but also with extremism, right? There's a lot of people nowadays that consume a lot of extreme right and extreme left, and then you have to deal with those things. A lot of things that consume a lot of drinks, consume a lot of bad food, consume a lot of bad music. Like take rap for example. How many rappers are openly admitting to crimes in rap?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
like what are
I
you
think there's one
doing?
that was actually convicted of murder because
Yeah,
he wrote a song about it, and then it turned
exactly.
out that he did actually do it.
And that's just what confuses me to the point where like all of these things, like if you think about Ibn Khaldun and how what he described in his Al Muqaddimah, like you would think that after a certain amount of time we understand what is bad for us and we just understand like we shouldn't be doing these things anymore. Obviously, my
Yeah.
entire thesis is on amnesia, and if you think about amnesia, you think about you forget what it took for you to be here today. You
Well, they
forget how
don't
many
care.
sacrifices it took for you to be here as an individual, and you're taking all these things for granted, and you're just pretending that all these sacrifices were just old people from an older time that don't matter anymore. And then you're just going for like, I want to consume this music, I want to have all of this sex, and I want to have all of this alcohol, and I want to have these drinks, and this, and you're creating an entire checklist of everything that's unhealthy for you. And then in your 40s and 50s, you get so many health problems that now you become a problem for society because now we have to take care of you because you made so many bad decisions, and that becomes an
Mhm.
ideological problem. So
Yeah.
when it comes to music, for me, it's really like there is a lot of beautiful music out there, even today that is being produced. Like I'm also a huge fan of Enya, for example. I
Yeah.
absolutely love her voice. Absolutely love
She's
it.
got a good voice. Yep.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
also the things that she sings about is just like it's something I can get behind because it's not really any pushing anything. It's just beautiful music.
Yep.
Same with Celine
Oriental
Dion.
Flow. I love that
Yeah,
song.
love that song as well. Or Cells.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Great
it's
song.
just these are beautiful songs, and then if I compare that to like this rock music from the 70s, where they're like, yeah, sex, drugs, alcohol, let's go, and I'm like, all right, we've seen in that generation that during the sexual revolution was a huge part of their society, right? And now we are living in the consequences of them not caring about anything and only caring about themselves, feeling good about themselves, and now you see all the consequences in our society.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are just blaming the elite, and a lot of people are blaming other people. And I'm like, okay, so you can see in all institutions, in all corporations, you can see in everything that the quality has just heavily declined in the past 5 decades. And that isn't the fault of the corporations, it's the fault of people consuming all of these things and then blaming others. And that is the biggest thing. Like when it comes to personal accountability, when you think about music, the deliberate practice we spoke about earlier, it's just so important to have the discipline on what it actually takes to learn a skill, because then you become humble. You actually understand that the sacrifice needed for you to actually learn all of these things instead of just being given everything to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I get where you're coming from there. And I guess you could even see some examples of that in some lyrics that, some big artists sell. Like, it was going through my head there as you were saying that about Oasis, and
Yeah.
they sing a song called Whatever, and the lyric goes, I'm free to do whatever but it's whatever I want to do kind of thing, you know what I mean? So it's selling off the back of that, well, yeah, I can do whatever I want and you just have to deal with it. But they're not thinking of the consequences of, future, what that's going to impact future generations kind of thing. You always need to take accountability for even what you're doing, for yourself kind of thing, because it's going to impact somebody down the line, whether in the future, if they've got kids, obviously, and because their lavish lifestyle, maybe doing drugs and stuff like that, has led to health problems, and then they pass away too early, leaving, a kid without a dad, you know, or a kid without a mum, whatever it be.
Like a song that has been with me for a very long time, like since my puberty actually, because I did have a bit of a struggle during this period of time.
Right.
Is a Japanese song from Yui called "Life." It's a
Yeah, I
song
believe you
about
let me hear that
her.
one. Yeah.
It's a song about just how the things that she struggled with, the fight that she had with her mother. Like it's about finding a new path for yourself and just understanding that everything that she's doing has been a path, and where she is now is because when that song came out, she started blowing up, and like that is the kind of thing you want, right? Like it's still a well, I wouldn't really call it a cheap song. It's a song that she herself wrote with just her guitar because that's what all she had, right? But
Yeah.
the chord progression is simple. Like I'm just going to be real. It's a simple chord progression, but then the lyrics make up for it because they are very deep lyrics, and you see this very often in Japan because of the current state of their society. A lot of artists are writing lyrics that are just crazy. Like for example, there's a lot of songs about suicide, not from Yui, but like from other artists, and
Very nihilistic.
yeah, it's very nihilistic as well. And it just goes to show the current state of their society. If this is the type of, not just the type of things that are being produced, but the things that are being consumed, because a lot of people are consuming this type of content. Like there's millions of views on these songs. But then if you look
It's
at the
also
more,
it might also be popular, so it's just edgy to do it, you know.
yeah, there is that as well. But if you look at the suicide rates in Japan, sure,
Fair.
it's edgy, but there
Mm.
is an actual basis behind it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you look at some of the things like TikTok challenges as well, people do
Oh,
it
Tide Pod
because it's
challenge.
popular,
Yeah, that's a
and
different ballgame.
it's led to deaths. People have died because they've done TikTok challenges.
do,
Um,
you remember the one that took off at the start of COVID? Licking toilet seats.
uh, oh, man, wow,
There's
no,
been
I
so
didn't hear
many
of that one.
crazy ones. Like there was don't swallow a fucking washing machine.
Yeah, the Tide Pods.
The Tide
Uh,
Pod, the nutmeg challenge was also super bad for you. Some people died from that. Like the ice
what
bucket
was the one
challenge.
where somebody put their head on a rail track line because they were dared to do it?
I don't even
And
know
they
what that
actually
is,
got
but
run over by a train.
I mean, some of these are good for good contenders for the Darwin Awards. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also like due to the nature of it, you become what you consume. That is kind of like the whole topic of this episode, right? Like you become what
brain
you
rot.
consume. It is
Yeah.
brain rot indeed, but there's always like choices to be made, and if your choice is to follow that line, then there's going to be horrible decisions that you're making later down the line, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you think of your introduction into music, and what got you, what genre you kind of vibe to when you were younger, it kind of paints a picture of the person you're going to grow up to be. Like, even for myself, I got introduced to music through like Tony Hawk's is when I really got into music, and that's why I kind of gel with that kind of that that scene, rock and stuff like that.
I don't know if
Um,
that's scientifically true though, because like the music I grew up with was the music my mother listened to and my little sister listened to.
right.
Like nobody's gonna know these artists, but like K3, it's brain rot. I'm just gonna be real.
Okay.
And my mother, Cressip, something like this is a Frisian artist. Like these songs, they're not that good. I'm just gonna be real. Like if you think
Yeah.
about the chord progression, you think about the lyrics, it's okay. It's just this is the type of thing that my mother listens to. Like my mother is a typical, well, modern day white woman, so to say.
Right.
She consumes cheap music. But at the same time, like that's what I grew up with. But then, like due to the fact that I had access to the internet, I was able to start listening to things like Linkin Park. Like this is all only because of the internet. Like the only reason I started listening to that is because back in the day, I watched like Dragon Ball Z, and there was a lot of Dragon Ball Z AMVs, like these animated music videos with Linkin Park music behind it, and that's how I got really exposed to like different types of music. But I would never hear that music in my house.
Yeah, I mean, I got introduced to Linkin Park through a music channel, Krang, and it was
I remember Kerrang, yeah.
Crawling. It was Crawling that first got me into Linkin Park, and I can remember just being like 10, 11 years old and hearing that song, and I was like, I need to go and get that album
I
and
didn't even
listen
know
to it.
Kerrang was still going.
They're not anymore, but Krang back in the day was like a big rock
Dude,
channel.
you say back in the day. Kerrang was a thing
Talking
back in my day.
20 years ago, 25 years ago.
That is back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
We're old,
Jesus
Mike.
Christ. I mean, I am. Let's be
The
fair. I am the oldest
realization.
one here, so come on.
Yeah, but like back in the day does actually eventually mean like if you go back two decades, then yeah, it is back in the day, you know.
Well, no, we're not back in the day. We're still in my day.
You're
But
still, yeah, right,
the
man.
main
'Cause
thing is,
I
like,
am, while I'm still alive, we are in my day.
All right, but
you heard that song, you went out and you got the album and you listened to that whole album. And I think with today's technology, as I said earlier, that's just lost. Now you can't you no, I don't think album sales are as good as what they used to be. I mean, the death of the high street as well has caused that. So HMV, Virgin Records, all these things that used to sell music to the crowds, they don't exist anymore. You cannot walk down a high street anymore and see these shops selling albums because Spotify, Deezer, YouTube has all took that and kind of just it's just diminished
well, it
its
does depend
class.
on the culture because in Japan you do still have them. Like Japan
Do
is a
you?
country
We have her.
that values owning physical things.
Right.
So in Japan, like you have a lot of stores that still sell physical copies. Like even vinyl records is
Mhm.
something you can still quite easily get in Japan.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's starting to be replaced slowly. Like
Mm.
in Japan, they even still used floppy disks until like a few years ago. Like
It's
this
an
is that type
inevitable
of
thing, though. You're not. It's one of those things. You're not going to stop it. You have to adapt, or you're just screwed
Yeah.
anyway.
exactly.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, if you are like somebody like an audiophile or something like that, then yeah, you might go out and still venture out and look for vinyl records or CDs because they're a higher quality of music.
Yeah.
That's on there. You can't down well some most services don't offer high res music, high fidelity music. And they say there's a different sound that comes off a vinyl record than what comes off a digital record.
Yeah.
Me myself, I can't really hear the difference, but
I mean, it depends on
it
your
is what it is.
setup, right? Because
I
like
Yeah,
I
but
have a GDS Element Labs 2. So this
right.
is an amplifier, digital analog converter with a 250 ohm headset. So
Oh
like
wow. Okay.
in the sense of audiophile, like I have a pretty expensive audio setup, like with a microphone from what is it, a Yeti? I think it's a Yeti.
is that
Like,
why we can hear your crisp and clear voice?
hell yeah, man.
It's
It's just that I'm a person that is 90% disabled in my left ear, and my right ear is also like
Yeah. So you
30%
need
disabled.
good equipment. You need to invest in that equipment, right? To get a
Yeah,
good
but I can
experience.
tell a huge difference between like there's the quality of music I listen to on the computer and the quality of music I listen to on like some in-ears that I use on my phone, right? It's
Right.
just that I can really hear everything. Sure, like my ears are not the best, but I can hear everything. Like I can hear every single progression. I can hear small little details. Like there's some songs that I've been listening to over the past 2 decades where I still sometimes find new things where I didn't even realize that was still there. Like sometimes there's just this tiny piano section where I'm like, I didn't really notice those type of things earlier, but like with these headsets and everything, I really, really hear those subtle details, and it's like there's actual a lot of hard work going into, especially older songs, like these little nuances that a lot of people don't notice. They're definitely there.
Yeah. Well, I guess like I've never had that experience because I've never really had like really expensive equipment to actually maybe experience that. But then in saying that, I've went from something like I don't know cheap headphones like Skullcandy headphones that cost £30 to then going up to something like XM3s, Sony XM3s, and like the sound stage is a lot better on the XM3s compared to a cheap pair of Skullcandy headphones. So yeah, I think obviously if you want quality, then you need to invest a higher amount of money, to get that quality.
Not
But
that
then,
expensive though.
I mean, a good pair of audiophile headphones will still set you back about what £400-500 at least.
Yeah, like my setup is around, let's say in pounds, like 500 pounds with the
Right,
GDS Element 2 and the headset.
right, okay, not bad at all. Um, Yeah, so I guess, but at the end of the day, you still need to be willing to invest into that ecosystem,
Yeah.
or you need to want to invest into that, and you know, if there's no music out there to really get interested in, then it's going to lead you to not invest in these things as well. You know what I mean? Because you just lose interest.
Well, it's just like what you desire as well, right? Like for me, like I generally believe like music is something that just relaxes me and is good for me. Like it's a healthy thing.
Yeah.
So then I start paying attention to the things that are being sung. For example, there's been sung songs that I used to listen to back in the day that I went back to, and I'm like, did I actually listen to this? Because these lyrics are just horrible. Like, what are they singing about?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In
You,
different tastes when you're younger, isn't it?
No,
yeah.
it's like there's this song that's quite popular that is quite literally about a school shooting.
Huh.
All right. Okay. Is that Jeremy
What is the name
Pearl?
again?
Um,
Like
Pearl
it's
Jam.
"Run from My Gun."
All right. Okay. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like that song, like I never paid attention to the lyrics like when I was like a teenager, but like growing older, I'm like, this is not a song that I should be listening to at all. Because
I
just
mean, well, you're
imagine.
young and stupid, aren't you?
But then look at there is a hit song, Manic Monday. That's about a school shooting, and that is a hit song.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, if you as a society allow this type of things, it also means you're willing to normalize this type of behavior, and
Yeah.
that is a trap, right? The trap is like at some point you want to have a difference between freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and something that generally can have consequences.
Hmm.
And it's a subtle thing. Like at some point, I want to be like, I do think it's a good thing to have these type of options available to you, but at the same time, like if you think about all the suicide songs in Japan, I do think a lot of people listen to those songs and take the next step because they're like, yeah, good point. Like
Yeah.
there's even this one song on YouTube that I've listened to from time to time where there's just a warning on the suicide hotline at the bottom of the page, like some
Is that
official
is that
YouTube
the
thing.
is that the muffin song by any chance?
No.
Because that until recently had the suicide warning on it.
No,
Wow.
no, no. I'm talking about Japanese song.
Uh,
That's
And it's just like
crazy.
that type of thing. Like the more you normalize these type of things, the more people might
well,
actually just go with it.
well, it's
Mm.
it's partly that, but I'd say it's also you've got people don't think for themselves now. So it's like I get all these parasocial relationships coming up. So people will just take whatever the current popular person does and think that's basically an order instead of thinking for themselves, going, okay, this might be funny, but yeah,
Is that
suicide's
not
a
where
bad thing.
the danger of AI lies as well? But people not
Well, I
thinking
mean
for themselves.
that's another form of it, yeah.
Yeah, and especially you mentioned earlier on about the friend who creates AI music. Again, could that be introducing that not wanting to have creative direction because
Well,
he's
no, I
just
mean
become
he makes good music with it, but
yeah.
it's like he
I would
can't
agree.
play. Yeah, but he can't play instruments, so he comes up with the lyrics and then comes up with the style of it. So he
Yeah,
does a good job with it.
I guess,
Like I
but
said before, you've got people use it as a tool, and then
mhm.
people who use it as a crutch. So he
See,
uses it as a tool, but then you've got the ones who use it as a crutch who don't try to experiment with it and try and find things out. They just go, "Oh, I'll just churn out a bunch of stuff." I mean, there's
yeah,
this channel I found, stumbled upon accidentally a few weeks ago, and it was basically, what if Superman ended up in the Warhammer 40k universe? And it was like an hour and a half story. It was clearly an AI done story because it also came up with like random strings of text in the middle of it every now and again, which was weird. I was like, that's not a bad that wasn't a bad story there. But then I saw other videos from that channel in my feed afterwards, and in about within about 2 weeks, because I checked the dates on them all, it was 10 stories of what if X character was in the 40k universe. It's like, okay, so he's just churning out the same thing with a slightly different
yeah,
variable each time. So
yeah,
that's using it as a crutch because he's not doing anything. It's like, oh, what if Superman's in there? What if Batman's in there? What if the entire Dragon Ball Z cast was in there? It's
yeah,
like, well, there's nothing. What you do one, you do it all. It was like
yeah,
your what was it, the Korean one where they kept on doing the same, arc every week. It was
Chinese.
like that. So it was just
yep,
Chinese, yeah, sorry. So
yep,
it was like that. I was like, I saw the first one. I was like, okay, the one with Superman was quite interesting, but it's like I've got no intention of seeing the rest. It was like some people just dive into that without thinking about it.
yeah, yeah. I get that definitely. I guess taking that back to what we said earlier, but if you become reliant on that and it's a crutch, then it creates, for me, like in my opinion, it creates a laziness because what we were saying earlier, right? Okay, your friend he creates good music with AI, but for me, being a musician, I would take what that AI done and maybe build upon it with my
Yeah.
instrument. So I would add bits to it. And I can actually remember speaking to him at one point and saying, I would have actually, if it was me playing the guitar on that, I would have added a bit more distortion to the tone,
Well,
just to give it that bit more punchy, So
right. Well,
that's where
I've got
the
my Well, you've got my other friend who also does a lot of stuff on with AI, and it goes into the whole arguing, don't use AI images because it ruins artists' careers. But my friend says no, you should use AI to come up with a basic concept and then send it to an artist because an artist loves references. So if you
mhm.
give them an AI reference, they will be very appreciative of you because you
Yeah.
give them something to work off of.
Yeah, I've done. I mean, I've done that myself as well. Like, I've been given music from. I was actually speaking to a boy in South Africa who was producing some kind of pop music,
Yeah.
and he said to me, he caught wind that I played guitar, and he said to me, I'd love for you to put something down to this, and I
Hmm.
just, randomly recorded something over it, and I sent it to him, and he was like, "Oh wow, that's it's gave me something to work with, and he put it into one of his songs, so that is as an artist that's rewarding as well to hear your work and getting put to use kind of thing. But that's where I find the joy out of doing things is building upon what's maybe already been referenced or is existing, and just making it sound that little bit better, or just adding something to it that might have been missed.
It's just
Something
finding the
that I'm
best of
feeling at
both
the time.
worlds.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
yeah,
find the best of
exactly.
both worlds of it.
But I think that is lost in music today, with just this, artists who are maybe just becoming too reliant on AI tools to
Well, again,
build their music.
we're just looping back to the whole crutch versus tool
Yeah,
argument.
yeah,
Yeah, we
exactly.
could wrap things up.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, yeah, music, I think today is getting industrialized to a scale where I think it's becoming just too money motivated, like everything else in this world, and there's the creativity's been lost now, because people are just focused on making money and becoming too reliant on tools and not their actual creativity. So I think it's spawned a lot of laziness in the industry. That's my opinion, at least.
Well, it's also like what I said, right? What you normalize, what you become, and we've seen that in our own society. We've normalized a lot of degenerative behavior, with all consequences are now showing in like our generation.
Yeah.
I mean, people are now turning against it though. So
Yeah, you see
it's
more
like,
people going to church and stuff like that. You do see the fight back, yeah.
yeah, so it's a problem that is also self-correcting.
Yeah.
Well, to a
Hopefully.
degree.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully we'll see something that comes along, and there is still bands out there who are innovative and are doing their own thing. But I think we need more of them to sell in the industry for people to get inspired.
It'll happen.
I hope
Just give
so.
it time.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll see.
you're not gonna see a massive change overnight.
No, of course not. And it's the same thing we said about the game industry as well. We're
TV,
not going to see
film, music.
change. Yep.
Yeah, it's
Anything in the
everything.
entertainment industry, I think we've got into a precarious situation.
Yep, I feel you. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by my book, We Stand on the Shoulders of Titans, Amnesia.